What can someone like you do? My brother laughed as he said this. Living with my brother and his wife, I watched our mother suffer. She came to our house looking tired and crying, saying, "I don't want to go back there." The image of her upset face made me clench my teeth. My brother was being so cruel to her. He even mocked me. Anger boiled inside me as I held onto the phone tightly. I tried to stay calm and said, "If you're okay with it, I'll take her in." My name is Rina. I'm 30 years old and have been married for 4 years. I live a happy life with my kind husband and our 2-year-old daughter. We are doing well and enjoy our lives. I checked the calendar and realized today is my mother's birthday. Happy 58th birthday. Ma'am, are you okay? Is there anything bothering you? I texted her. Soon, I got a reply. Thank you for your message. I'm fine. Don't worry. How are you and your family? I always pray for your happiness. Even after reading her reply, I still felt worried. Right now, my mother lives with my brother and his wife in our old family home. Our family used to be made up of my father, my mother, my older brother, and me. My father was very strict and believed that men should have control over everything. Because of him, my mother and I often felt trapped. My grandfather worked at a company owned by my father's father. My mother had to marry my father because of the power between the two families. It was almost like she was taken hostage. The company failed after an economic crash before my father could take over, but it seemed like they still had some money. I never saw my father work. Instead, he would start drinking during the day and take out his anger on my mother and me. We lived in fear of his quick temper. My mother had to do what my father said. He strongly believed that women were inferior and that men were always better. He spoiled my brother, treating him like he was special. My brother got everything he wanted, while I was never allowed to express my wishes. My father would say, "A woman shouldn't be greedy." Because of this, my brother grew up feeling entitled, thinking he was better than me, and often making fun of me. I remember how painful it was to grow up in such a home. Every day, I dreamed of leaving as soon as I could. Even though I had excellent grades, my brother, who did poorly in school, was allowed to go to expensive private high school and college. I wasn't even allowed to attend high school because my father believed women didn't need education and it was a waste of time. He would say, "You should get married soon or work a low-paying job." One time, my brother called me a dumb girl who's a failure and said it was a waste for me to go to high school. I cried from the frustration of it all. In the end, my mother secretly arranged for me to attend a boarding high school. Despite the tough environment at home, she always supported me. "Rina, it's okay to escape from here. You will find happiness," she told me before I left for school. I graduated from university with scholarships and money I earned myself. Since high school, I barely went back home. I didn't attend my brother's wedding or tell them when I got married, but I stayed in touch with my mother and met with her occasionally. I truly owe my success to my mother, who has always been very important in my life. She was a gentle person, and even if she seemed weak, she loved me with all her heart. I always wished for her happiness. I remember when our father died because of his unhealthy lifestyle. I didn't go to his funeral, but my mother later told me something shocking. On his deathbed, he told my brother and his wife to move back home and live with my mother. Since then, they have been living with her. I wanted to protest, but my mother said it was okay, so I didn't say anything more. Instead, I kept in touch with her like this. But I worried, would my brother take care of my mother properly? Was she really okay? I always felt uneasy about my mother's situation, and my fears came true one night when the intercom of our apartment rang unexpectedly. When I answered, I was shocked to see my mother standing there, dressed in ragged clothes. It was late fall, and she wore a thin short-sleeved shirt and an old skirt that looked like it had seen better days. Her hair was messy, her cheeks were hollow, her eyes were sunken, and she was trembling. I was taken aback by how she looked and raised my voice. "Ma'am, what happened to you?" "Rina, I'm sorry to show up like this," she said in a weak voice, tears streaming down her face. I welcomed her inside, and my husband quickly made her a warm drink and got her a blanket. Once she sat down, My mom began to speak slowly. She told me that ever since she started living with my brother and his wife, Nicole, they had been treating her like a maid. They forced her to do all the housework, and if it wasn't done to their liking, my brother would scold her, calling her useless and a nuisance, even threatening to throw her out. Nicole called my mom an old hag, sold some of her precious jewelry and clothes, and spread rumors that my mom was a troublesome mother-in-law. Mom had lost a lot of weight, and when she got sick and had to stay in bed, they still forced her to do chores. My heart ached as I listened to her. "Ma'am, why didn't you tell me you were suffering so much?" I asked. "Rena, I've put you through hardship since you were a child. I didn't want to burden you more. I thought I could just bear it," she replied, her voice shaking. Just then, an email came in. It was from Nicole. "Where are you? You didn't do the laundry, and there's no food. Do you want your things sewed again?" My mom's hands shook as she read it. "I'm sorry, Rena, I don't want to go back to that house," she said. Hearing her words made me angry. I pulled out my phone and dialed my brother's number, which my mother had given me. After the ringing, he answered. "Who's this?" "This is Rena. Mom's here with me." "Oh, it's you." That old hag left without doing her chores. "Tell her to come back immediately." "It sounds like you've been treating Mom badly." "I've heard everything," I said, my voice shaking with anger. My brother just laughed and replied, "So what? What kind of dimmer like you do? You've worked Mom so hard that she got sick. Do you think that's okay? I won't let her live with you any longer. Do you think you can afford to take care of her? She's been a housewife all her life and has no money. You're going to take her in? No way." "That old hag was useful as a housekeeper," he said. I could hear Nicole's voice in the background, and it made me furious. I couldn't stand how poorly they treated my dear mother and how they made fun of me. My grip on the phone tightened, but I tried to stay calm and said, "If that's how you feel, brother, then I will take Mom in." "What?" he replied, surprised. "Well, if you're going to take her, that's fine. It'll clear out some space in the house, and I'll be relieved," my brother said. "I understand. Mom will be living with me, so don't contact us anymore." I hung up the phone. "Rena, I'll take good care of your mother," my husband said, holding my hand. Our daughter happily climbed onto my mother's lap, calling her grandma, and my mother hugged her, crying with joy. Half a year later, the doorbell rang repeatedly. When I looked outside, I saw my angry brother and his grumpy wife, Nicole, who was dressed in bright clothes. "What do you want? How did you find out where we live?" I asked. "We looked it up. Just open the door. We have something to ask you," he replied. I had my husband take our daughter into another room, while my mother and I faced them. The first thing my brother said when he came in was, "What's this about our house being sold?" "Oh, you got the message." "Yes, my company bought your house," I answered calmly. "Your company? What are you talking about?" he asked, confused. Exactly what I said. "I'm the head of a well-known real estate company in the area," I explained. "By the way, doesn't the company you work for subcontract to us?" When my brother heard the name of my real estate company, his face turned pale. "That's ridiculous. You, a dropout and a loser, can be the head of that company," he shouted. "If you're suspicious, why don't you call and check? But please don't cause any trouble for the company," I replied, showing him my business card. When he saw it, he fell silent, his face turning red. After graduating from university, I had worked hard and got hired by a major real estate company. Later, I was headhunted to be an executive at a new company. I met my husband at work, and we got married. He's a landowner, so we're doing quite well. There's no reason for you to call me a dropout or a loser. I can easily support Mom, you know. My brother, wide-eyed and gritting his teeth, didn't respond. His wife looked shocked. Okay. What about our family home? What do you mean you sold it?" my brother shouted, nearly foaming at the mouth. My mother, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. "You may not have known, but after your father passed away, a house was transferred to my name. I sold the house and land to Rena's company using my rights, so you need to leave as soon as possible." What? What are you talking about? Old woman, you said that as the oldest son, the house was yours, didn't you? My brother and his wife were panicking, their faces changing quickly. What's wrong with me selling something that's in my name? Sorry to break it to you, but I've broken free from your influence, my mother said firmly. I won't live as you dictate anymore, my mother said firmly. In response, my brother shouted at her, What the hell are you talking about? You worthless old hack, his wife added. That's right, you've never worked a day in your life, you just rely on others. What are you talking about? Mom works hard, she manages an apartment building that my husband and I own. She's very friendly, keeps the place clean, and is loved by the residents, and she gets paid for it too, I replied firmly. When my brother heard this, he fell silent and slumped into a chair. Nicole whispered something in his ear. Knowing my prideful brother, I figured he was crushed by this unexpected defeat from his sister and rejection from our mother. If there's nothing else, you can leave now. I don't want to be involved with you, I said. My brother lifted his head, his angry expression replaced by a fawning grin. All right, but listen, you're rich now, right? Give me some money. I lost my job and I'm having money troubles. I was shocked by his audacity. Mom could give money to me too. You got money from selling the house, right? Just think of it as helping your adorable son and give me some cash, and I'll leave. Just as I was about to respond, my mother raised her voice. Enough already. Have some shame? I was taken aback to see my gentle mother speaking so strongly for the first time. My brother and his wife looked stunned. I apologize for raising you to prey on your sister like a shameless creature, but there are things you shouldn't do. Don't disturb us anymore and go home, she said firmly. Hearing this, my brother started to tremble again. Shut up and listen, old hack. You think you can't tell me what to do? Be prepared. I'll squeeze every dime of your inheritance from you, Nicole added. Yes, give us the money already. To them, my mother coldly replied, That's if there is anything left. From now on, I plan to spend all the money from the sale of the house on myself and Rena and her family. I have no intention of leaving a single penny for you two. What the hell, you old crone, my brother shouted. I'm cutting ties with both of you from now on. Please stay away from me and Rena. Leave the house immediately. Seeing my mother like this made me so proud. I felt a desire to applaud. I was genuinely happy for her. She had finally broken free from the oppression of the house. Do you understand now? Please go home, I said, rubbing my mother's trembling back. No, we won't leave. We won't leave until we get the money. My brother and his wife continued to glare at us. Then, a calm voice broke through the tension in the room. What do you mean you won't leave? It was my husband. With his gentle tone, he spoke to my mother-in-law. I'm sorry. Could you please watch our daughter? You did great. Don't worry about the rest. Everything will be fine. Hearing this, my mother thanked him and stood up from her chair. My brother and his wife looked shocked and pale when they saw my husband. What? Who are you? They stammered. Nice to meet you. I'm Rena's husband, by the way. What were you saying to my wife and mother-in-law earlier? My husband asked with a serious face. Suddenly, my brother and his wife became much nicer. It makes sense. My husband is 6'3", has a strong build, and looks quite imposing. He also holds a black belt in judo. Even though he's kind and loving, people might find him intimidating, especially someone like my brother, who usually tries to show off and look down on women. Oh, I just remembered I have something to do. I should be going now, my brother stuttered. Yes, let's go, his wife added. They quickly changed their attitude and laughed. Their retreat was so funny that I had to hold back my laughter. In the quiet house, my husband touched my shoulder and said, You did well. You must be tired. My mother came out holding my daughter, looking happy. We embraced without saying a word. Fast forward to a year later, my husband, mother, and I maintained a great relationship. My mother continues to work as a building superintendent, and she has become lively and healthy. She loves and cares for my daughter, which has been a huge help to me. My daughter also adores her grandmother and often stays close to her. Watching them together brings both my husband and me a lot of happiness. As for my brother, he divorced shortly after that incident. He lost his house and his money. After showing my husband how pathetic he had become, Nicole quickly left him. And now, Nicole is trying to remarry by dating. But because of her nasty attitude and motives for money, she hasn't found anyone. My brother is now jobless, living alone in a rundown apartment, and struggling with part-time jobs. I have no plans to help him because he brought this on himself. My mother and I want to live without getting involved with him again. Either way, we are planning to build a large two-family home soon. We could stay in the condo my husband owns, but my mother pointed out that it will feel cramped as our daughter grows. Let me use all the money from selling the house, she said, and we happily agreed. We are excited about living happily together in our new home.